piece of equipment. Yet, and this is his photograph, by the way, I think, can you see that little ant there? That's me. I'm standing there. And this is one, the first trilithon, and then there are two more. Now we know where they came from, because about 1.5 miles away, there is the quarry from which those stone blocks were cut and lifted and brought. And one of them is unfinished. So right here it's still part of the native rock, and this part has been already cut. And again, this is me there. So you can see the size. So somebody in antiquity, and according to all the evidence before the flood, cut those stones and lifted them over 1.5 miles and put them there, not drop them on the ground, but put them exactly where they should be, where they belong. And the question is, what was the purpose of this whole thing? As I said, Gilgamesh reported that he saw a rocket ship launched there, and the Phoenician coin also depicted. And it was only after I saw photographs of about a year ago, I think, of the Chinese launching their spacecraft for the first time. Now, we are used to launch towers made of metal and so on, but this is also built out of some kind of stone. So I have no doubt that what we see there now, where is the one? Right, because this is exactly the same thing as the Chinese have built, because this starts somewhere there and goes down and down and down and down to well below ground. So this was a launch site to which Gilgamesh went around 5,000 years ago in order to be lofted to the planet of the gods, Nibiru. But he failed. There's a whole tale that he had a companion, and they killed the sacred bull, the bull of heaven, and had to escape for their life. So it didn't work. So he didn't give up. He went to the other destination, which, if you recall a previous slide, was the spaceport in the Sinai Peninsula. And what was there we also know, because the Egyptian has depicted it, and this is a depiction found in the tomb of an Egyptian called Hui, who was the governor in ancient times of the Sinai Peninsula. And in his tomb, the burial chamber is surrounded on the walls with depictions of scenes from the lands where he was an official. And this is from the Sinai, and I think you can see that this is an underground silo, because you see the ground level with trees and giraffes, etc., and you see it multi-stage rocket ship and the command module sticking out from above ground. So this is what existed in the Sinai Peninsula. Oops, we go forward. Right. And again, like in the Sumerian tales, there are Egyptian texts. The collection is called the Book of the Dead, because the Egyptian pharaohs claimed that they have, by being a pharaoh, they were divine, semi-divine, demigods, and had the right after they died, in an afterlife, to join the gods in an afterlife. So after they died, according to the Book of the Dead, they went on a simulated journey to the spaceport, to where the spacecraft or rocket ships are, and then to be taken aloft. And the Book of the Dead has many illustrations. This is just one of them that shows the 4 pilots that welcomed him aboard the spacecraft, one of the pharaohs. So there's no doubt that there too the facility for being taken aloft did exist. However, it does not exist anymore. Baalbek still exists in ruins, but the spaceport in the Sinai does not exist because in one of the next wars between the various clans of the Anunnaki, the Enlilites, the Enkiites, Ninurta, Marduk, etc., they resorted to the use of nuclear weapons. And the spaceport in the Sinai was a target. And you can see to this day 2 things. One is you can see the immense cavity to this day from space. This is a NASA photograph. And the crack in the peninsula is a result. And if you go there, which I did by myself and with a group, if you go there, you find in that particular spot, you find in the middle of pure white limestone mountains. Everything is pure white. You see a huge field with broken, burnt, and totally blackened rocks. And one of the visits, I took samples. They were tested. There's possibly some radioactivity, but it's inconclusive. But in 2024, almost 4,000 years ago, the Anunnaki resorted to the use of nuclear weapons. There is a long text called the Era Epic, E-R-R-A, Epic, that describes the reasons, who did it, how they did it, what the number of nuclear weapons that were used in 2024. The unintended consequence of that was that a wind blowing from the Mediterranean brought what they called in those texts, they're called lamentation texts, they called the evil wind that brought death to everything alive in Sumer. As the nuclear wind passed, reaching from the Sinai to Sumer, it did not destroy anything. The lamentation text lament that the stalls stand, but the animals that were there are all dead. The houses stand, but everybody who lived in the houses lies dead in the streets, on the roofs, etc. And that was the end of the great Sumerian civilization about 2024 BC. And in that one, unlike in the previous wars, where Ninurta, the son of Enlil, was the victor, Marduk, the son of Enki, was the victor, and that was the beginning of the rise of Babylon. Instead of Sumer and Enlil and all the others, it was now the era and the time of Marduk and the Babylonians. Now we are starting